Welcome everyone. I'm here in Kelvingrove Park with the wonderful Zoe Graham, who has recently released her album Tent. So, welcome Zoe. Thank you for joining me here.
Yeah.
First question I have for you is what attracted you to music initially, both as a listener and as a performer?
Yeah, I suppose, well, I grew up in quite an artistic family, which was really nice. So my mum was an actor, or like a theatre actor, and my dad was an artist and a kind of community artist and things like that. So I kind of grew up with that around creative things in the family. And then my brother became really interested in music, and still is. He's a kind of conductor and composer of orchestras and things like that, so we're quite different as musicians, but I think seeing him getting into it and just being around creative things as a young kid was really alluring to me. I just always wanted to be creative, always wanted to make things no matter what it was really, and I think music became the driving force of that, but also art and visual stuff as well. You know, I think it's just as much about being an artist in a lot of ways, so I kind of just always wanted to make things and do it on my own and like be, I don't know, in control, I think, of things. So here we are, about however many years later, still doing it. But yeah, really just family dynamic, family, my situation, and a real like kind of nurture of creative arts and an excitement towards the arts from a young age, which was kind of honed by my parents, which was really nice.
Great.
Yeah.
And who were the musicians and artists that initially caught your interest, and who were your influences?
Do you know, it's funny, like I think I hear a lot of people saying, well, like I grew up in a really musical family, or we had music on all the time, which we did, but not in the way that, you know, there was never silence. So we had like the same couple of CDs or like tapes, cassettes in the car, and it would be Simon and Garfunkel. I think the album's called The Boxer, or it's called The Bridge. I'm not totally sure which one it is, but we had that. We had some what's her name? Shania Twain. Lots of Shania Twain. Lots of Madonna. Like just fantastic pop writing. You know, like classic pop writing. But then we also had like when I was really young, we used to have like a tape of a kids musical like program called Pots and Pans or something like that, so we'd listen to that a lot when I was like really young. And then I feel like I was talking about this to somebody the other day, we had a Peter Kay tape, like a Peter Kay comedy tape, and we'd listen to it a lot, and it would obviously all be the same jokes, the same show, but he at the end of it he would sing "Is This the Way to Amarillo?" I feel like that's like one of the earliest memories of songs that I have is Peter Kay singing "Is This the Way to Amarillo?" I was only talking about this to someone the other day, so the memory's now fresh in my head. But yeah, so really good fun, like great pop writing, I think was the main thing. And then when I got a little bit older, I started finding my own kind of taste, I suppose. I got really into Katie Tunstall was a big thing for me when I was a kid, and a musician called Jenny Owen Youngs, and I then went to college and kind of found a whole bunch of other things, and I got into a great songwriter called Wallace Bird, and she became a real songwriting icon for me. So, and since then it's just I'm now listening to everything and anything under the sun, which is nice. But yeah, I think it all started with Amarillo.
Wow,
you can cut that bit. Soundbite.
We want to have a cover now of "Is This the Way to the Armadillo?"
That would be good. That would be good. I think that's what I thought it was actually when I was a kid, to be fair. Yeah.
Do you remember when music first became an important feature or an important role in your life? more specifically as
a job,
as a performer?
As a kind of thing. That's a really good question. I suppose it's a good question. It's kind of always just been there, I think, and sometimes, like, looking, not to therapize things too much, but like looking back on my life, I feel like I kind of blinked. I was a kid and then I blinked and now I'm here and I'm doing music and I kind of don't know what happened and how it happened. But I think I was really into kind of just like performing for my pals and kind of being funny and things like that. I think actually really being a musician is my substitute for being a comedian that's not very funny. I think the people in the performance world that I've always really looked up to and have so much respect for are comedians. I think that's the most scary thing you can do, and I think, as I've mentioned to you before, I care way more about what people think about my jokes rather than whether they like the music or not. Like that, when it comes to playing a gig, I actually don't really mind if people don't like it or it's not their thing, but if they don't laugh at my jokes, it crushes me. So I think, growing up in my household and stuff as well, we were always joking and having a laugh, and my mum and my brother are very, very witty, funny, fast people. And so is my dad, but him and I are much more on the quiet side, I think. My mum and my brother kind of lead the charge. So I think from a young age I was always like really aspiring to be the funny and witty one and things like that. So I think although I maybe wasn't quite as fast as them, I knew I could kind of try write a song, and I think substituting that in for laughs and spoofs has been a big thing. So yeah, I mean, I kind of started doing music professionally, I suppose, once I left college, and I've not really stopped doing it since. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of just always been a thing, a constant in my life, and now I'm at the stage where I'm reevaluating what place it has in my life, because it's been everything for so long. I realise that I need to do other things too, and then that'll complete the circle of a balanced life, I think.
Right.
Is that not a very good answer to your question?
No, it's great. It's great. So when it came to the recording of the album, at what point did you come to realise the sort of context of it being about an album about therapy?
Yeah, I suppose when I was down, we recorded the album over quite a long period of time. It wasn't just going into a studio for 8 weeks and by the end you've got an album. It was really was 2 years of doing it, and throughout that 2 years I had a couple of songs that were older that I liked, and really when I started writing the new stuff for the album, I'd enrolled myself into therapy, and I think I thought, in a way, which I think is a common thought, that when you go, there's this kind of perception of like a tortured artist going to therapy and then coming out of therapy and not having anything to write about because you're cured. Like you've got no kind of, I don't know, stuff to write about anymore, or you're going to lose your kind of artisticness. But what I found was when I was in therapy, it became probably one of the most idea-fueling places to be. After every session it would be, wow, this is like a new discovery or a new way of thinking about things, and it was actually a very good thing to do from a songwriting perspective. So I think really after the first couple of sessions of therapy and kind of working through things and starting to write about what I'd been learning in some way or another, I think it kind of just seemed like it was always inevitable. Although, as so many creative things are, you don't really know for me, I don't really know what it's going to be until it is what it is. So yeah, I found that it wasn't until we kind of started finishing the album that I took a look at it and thought, this this is 10 sessions in the therapist's office, even if not all of them were written when I was in therapy. It's all relevant. So yeah, I think really towards the end of recording, I'd really started to see this thing take shape, and I was still really quite in therapy at the time that we finished the album. It's only really been recently that I've stepped back from it, and I think it's like when you've got a vested interest in something, you see it everywhere, don't you? So I think at that point it just very much became clear.
Great.
Yeah.
With some of the tracks on the album,
Mm-hmm.
for example, Good Girl and my brain's gone blank. Sorry, it's terrible. So with Good Girl and
Even though I'm scared.
that's the one.
Yeah, I'm scared
Thank
to remember your questions.
You remember them more than what I do. Seems to be a thread of unrequited love with those, as opposed to When Living Came Easy, which seems to be more on a kind of, the love has been found and it's now requited and things are now in a good place. Is that a fair assessment of how those tracks play out?
I think it is. There's a sort of you said unrequited love for the first two, for Good Girl and for Even Though I'm Scared. Is that what you said? Yeah. Well, yeah, I do think that's a fair assessment. I suppose with both Good Girl and Even Though I'm Scared, there's a kind of feeling of unregulated love is maybe a good way to put it, because it was more a kind of blind lust or excitement for somebody or something that maybe wasn't actually quite so good, or maybe wasn't what it should have been. Where Even Though I'm Scared is about literally being almost scared of somebody, but too caught up in ideas and perceptions to really kind of see what's in front of you, and just diving into something because you think it looks great, but it's actually not so great. And Good Girl is about this kind of, I suppose, unrequited love, but again with this kind of tinge of sadness and tinge of, I don't know, harm and things like that. And When Living Came Easy, I think that's quite a fun song, really, because it kind of encapsulates all of those ideas, but in a nice, healthy way. Because a good, healthy relationship is one that you do argue and you do fall out, but you make up with each other and you find a path and you learn about yourself and you make compromises, and that can sometimes look really scary and feel like not a good thing, but it really, really is when you do it in a healthy way and an understanding way. So I think, if anything, I've learned throughout writing and my life is that unrequited love shouldn't be gone any further. Let's stay away from unrequited love and only make judgment and decisions when you when you like somebody. Don't act with your heart as much. Act with your heart a little less and your head a little more, and I think you'll be in a good place.
That sounds like sound advice, I think. Also, with the track Evelyn, you refer to yourself in the third person. And then later in Divine Feminine Energy, there was a line where you say, it would kill to be a little more like Evelyn.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, with that, is Evelyn kind of like your alter ego, or is what's really
about?
the story with her? And also
I
the spelling of her name. Is that a deliberate thing of?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I love how you have noticed that. It's like a little Easter egg that I appreciate you picking up on. But so the spelling of Evelyn obviously isn't spelt like that. I think that was half because I am dyslexic and didn't know how to spell Evelyn when I first wrote the song, and then when I kind of looked at the spelling, I thought actually that I should keep it like that because it says, you know, it's like evil in Evelyn. So yeah, it ended up being a kind of happy accident. Yeah, but Evelyn, so when I refer to myself in the third person in Evelyn, it's almost like I switch character a little bit. Evelyn is a kind of car crash of a discussion between me and somebody else, and there is an Evelyn out there, but she's a real person. And before anybody makes the assumption, Evelyn's not my mother. Evelyn, it just so happens that my mum is in the video, but it's not a song about my mum in the slightest. It's a kind of car crash of a discussion of a kind of manipulative, almost abusive discussion where you very quickly and easily lose track and sense of what's going on and who's right and what just happened, and you start to doubt yourself. So when I start talking about myself in the third person, it's literally me switching character. Now I'm Evelyn, now I'm talking to me. So that's where that comes from. And I think there's also this Evelyn, for all her misdemeanors, is also somebody that I think at points you feel kind of fascinated by, and you see the drive and the determination and the commitment to all sorts of things that you kind of feel that if only you were a little bit more mean, and if you were only a little bit more ruthless, and if you were a little bit more, I don't know, delusional, sometimes maybe life could be easier. So there's a kind of rather than Evelyn being a total villain in the story, I like to think that she's maybe a kind of herald of where you are in life and what could you change about yourself and things. So it's very complicated. It's very complicated. You can see the kind of problem that my therapist had for 2 years when I was working with him. But I'm still trying to really put it into words of what it is and what it means. But Evelyn itself is a car crash of a conversation, and that little moment in divine feminine energy is this kind of coming to peace and coming to terms with stuff and not holding a grudge, but finding value in shitty things that happen in your life and moving forward from that, I think.
Great.
Yeah, cool.
Well, that's a great explanation. What is the most therapeutic aspect of music for you?
Oh, brilliant.
Is it the creation of the material, the recording of it, or playing live, or a mixture of all those elements?
That's a good point. It's a really good point. They're all different in their own way, really. I've kind of referred to writing music recently as a kind of, for lack of a better phrase, like a kind of biological process. You know, it's like you kind of have a lot of things happen, and then at one point when your mind feels ready, or this is at least for me, when my mind feels ready to kind of, or in a place where it kind of can express it, it kind of ends up falling out, and sometimes not in any deliberate way, just in a kind of, just almost like venting, or like something that I just needed to let go of. So I think that's a really, really important part of writing for me, and very therapeutic. And there's plenty songs that say an awful lot but have never been, you know, released into the world, and they're really just for me, to be honest. And then the production part of it is kind of like a little respite, I think, because it's, for me, the most fun and exciting part. I find songwriting really difficult and find it quite frustrating at sometimes. So the production part is the bit where I get to have a bit of fun and let go and get excited about sounds and things like that. So that feels like the nice little respite of, well, I've done this thing, now I can have a little play. And then the performing it, that's probably, I'd say, maybe the most therapeutic part of it, especially recently. I used to. The reason I actually went to therapy in the first place, or one of the reasons, is that I was really struggling with stage fright before just coming out of COVID and pre-COVID and things like that. I would find myself blacking out on stage. I've literally played hundreds of shows, done it for a long, long time, and because I was obsessed with the idea of perfection and a show being perfect and all my jokes being funny, and it just being this perfectly neat little package, the pressure that I'd put on myself was just horrendous. So I would panic on stage because there's so much that you can't control in a live setting. Mm-hmm. So now, at one point, playing live was really not therapeutic at all. It was actually not very pleasant. But now I've got to this stage where I kind of embrace imperfection, I embrace liveness, because I like the idea that people are at the show where I, mess up, or people are at the show where something goes wrong or whatever. So now it's become this a lot more therapeutic for me, and it's become something where I can actually deliver the songs in a way that I feel is fun. And I think that's actually also the reason why I don't want to write any sad songs anymore, or kind of sad songs, I don't want to. I feel that because that part of performance is so important to me, and I'm going to have to play these songs for years to come. Mm-hmm. I want to play stuff that's going to put me in a good mood, or that's going to invigorate me, or that's going to make me feel driven. Not some. I've always been in awe of people that go up and play a set. I don't know, that's like Sufjan Stevens. I always worry about Sufjan because he's going beautiful, heartbreaking songs. Mm-hmm. But I think, God, you must be in a right pissy mood after the show, because I would be. It's like, oh God, what a downer, for yourself. So
perhaps that's his kind of outlet, though.
That's it. It's exactly that. That's probably what works for him. But I need to. I'm at a very delicate point with performance right now, where I only want to write stuff that I'm gonna enjoy and get something out of myself. So I don't think any more sad songs are going to happen for a while.
So on a note on that, though, with the layout, with the track listing of the album, towards the end, there are two tracks, I Only Ever Loved Yous and Stranger Care, and they seem to be the more
vulnerable kind of things.
Sad, just melancholic tracks on the album, but then in comes
I can't actually remember what's next myself, actually.
When Living Came Easy.
Oh, was it?
When Living Came Easy, and then Divine Feminine Energy. So that
is that how it goes?
They seem to bring up the the mood again. Was that a sort of a
purposeful
thing?
A
way of putting the track listing together.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You have the sort of lower, and then
we're back up again.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's. I think albums in a world where everything's so quick, and songs for TikTok becomes 30 seconds long and things like that. I think albums are a art that we need to conserve, and I think album listing and placing the songs in the right order is something that I find really fun, because you can really tell a story with how you lay it out. So yeah, it's absolutely on purpose. I kind of wanted to I think part of me just wanted to get them over and done with, and then we can just move on. I think partly that, but also I think there's a bit of a journey that you go on with the album, where you at the start you open the box, you open Pandora's box, and you're suddenly immersed in therapy land, and you're coming to all these realizations. And what I found with therapy, at least, is that it's all fun and games until you dig too much, and then you come away from sessions and you think, oh my god, what am I going to do with this information? This doesn't feel like a game anymore. This is actually like quite like rubbish. But I think that's what you go to therapy for, what you go for, and you do come to a point of real kind of turmoil at times, I think, with it, and vulnerability. So I wanted to keep those songs together to kind of have the listener, I don't know, be in that space for a while, and then when it comes to opening back up into something a little bit more positive, I suppose that's habitually my way of dealing with troublesome emotions, is to just forget about it, move on, and we'll deal with it another time. So maybe an album too, I'll come back to that space again, and I'll have done a little bit more work. But I think I didn't want to end it on a downer, and I didn't want to end it on a kind of on a kind of trudge to the finish. So I think a lot of the thing is, when you're in that space of vulnerability, for me at the time, a lot of how I was processing it was anger, and then that's where When Living Came Easy is a kind of song about expressing anger, and then after that you're kind of on the home straight to curedom. Not that anybody's cured, not that I'm cured, but here we are. So yeah, I think divine feminine energy is like a kind of, little, I don't know, this is where we are now, and it's all a bit more happy and things like that. But yeah, definitely on purpose, for sure.
Your music, your style musically has changed from your early days. Was that a natural progressive step for you, the way the change has come about? Do you feel like you're more comfortable in a more sort of pop environment than you were, say, in a sort of folk or traditional style?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's so much that I never ever wanted to put myself in a box in any way as a person or a musician, so I think whatever comes next might also be different, and I think there is definitely a sense of, I suppose, found what it is that I want to do with this album. But now, after releasing it, after being at this point, there's probably something else I want to do now, but when it comes to songs before, I think, like I say, I was quite wrapped up in pressure, and putting a lot of pressure on myself to make a career in music happen, and quite obsessed with it, really. And I think, although some people really, really enjoy the older stuff, being me and my writing, I feel like I can hear that. I feel like I can hear a kind of forcedness and a kind of tenseness that you don't hear in this record, because I've focused a lot on the songwriting more than, I don't know, a kind of idea of what I wanted a song to be. So I went to college and studied songwriting with a wonderful songwriter, Donna Machocha, who became like a great mentor in songwriting for me. But I think I kind of lost that excitement for songwriting for a while, because I was too busy trying to, I don't know, make something of myself and be in the industry, and the industry is very fickle and very short-lived at times too. So I think with this album I kind of didn't care as much of what the outcome was, and just focused on writing a good song and popping a key change in there, and working on the substance first, rather than thinking of what an outcome was going to be and how I could just get there. So I think that's where this album is now, and it's nice to feel that I've done that, and I feel like I've put my flag in the ground, and now I feel like I can do what I want, which is quite nice. So I think whatever's next will hopefully be a little bit more wacky.
I look forward to that. Yeah. So you have the album is co-produced with Ben Christophers.
Yeah.
Can you go into some detail of how Ben's input helped shape the album, or how working with him was?
Yeah, Ben is just phenomenal. So I met Ben a long time ago when we had a writing session together. I went to his home in London, and it was one of these things where I was quite young-ish at the time, and I'd just be turning up to a randomers, somebody I've not met before ever, and then just kind of having a 6-hour writing session with them, and we'd come up with something at the end. So it was always this weird feeling of like you don't know who's going to be behind the door when they open it. And I remember knocking the door and him swinging the door open and just going, "Sorry, Graham," and I thought, okay, this is exciting. Usually people are just like, "Hello, come on in, whatever," and I was just like, whoa, this person is like a kind of glowing orb of positivity. And we went up his stairs into his studio and just wrote together. And I think it was one of these things with Ben, and I hope you wouldn't mind me saying this, that I wasn't particularly massively taken away with like his kind of production style at the time. I just really liked him. I thought he was just so much fun, and actually we spent quite a lot of the writing session just talking to one another, which was great. So I kind of felt like a real friendship had formed with him, and a kind of allyship had formed with him. So I really wanted to work with him, just because I just wanted to have a laugh with him again and just like connect with this person again. So I feel like that it was quite nice because it came from the right place with working with him. And then when it comes to the production, it was really nice because quite a lot of the album production-wise I'd kind of already done before I got to Ben. So, and then I took it to Ben and said, either let's recreate this thing that I've done and just make it sound better, or help me take this to like the next level. So there are actually some songs that have parts of the demos still in them, which is lovely for me as an artist to feel like I really genuinely contributed to it. But working with Ben was like, he was kind of steering the ship, and I was kind of with the telescope telling him where to go, and then sometimes he'd take us out into really deep water and I'd feel a little bit uneasy about that, and I'd maybe rein it back in, or he'd kind of just encourage me to go out a little bit further. And I think that's where I feel like it really was a collaborative process. He added so much value to the whole album in terms of how we did things and how I thought about things, and I think you can hear that throughout the album, because there's things that I would have never ever thought about doing, but now maybe I would, because I've learned from him. So Ben is also a songwriter himself. Like, he came from the same place as me, so he gets it, and he's toured for his own thing, and he's been in my shoes. So I think it's really nice to work with somebody who's not just getting to do the fun part and doesn't understand where I'm at. So yeah, Ben's a true goodie. Yeah, I loved working with him. I'm sure we'll do more again.
Excellent.
Yeah, I hope so.
So now that Tent is out in the world, how are you feeling about perhaps any apprehension or conversely excitement with what will come with a follow-up for the album?
Yeah, it is totally excitement at the moment, which is a nice place to be. I'm yet to actually really properly sit down and capture the excitement, because I've just not really had the moment. But it's kind of like I said earlier, I feel like it's nice to come out with this album. It feels like the pressure's off a little bit. I think I've always wanted to prove myself in some way or another, but I think I definitely put some kind of, for me personally, a bit of a flag in the ground with this album. So whatever's next, it feels like I'm gonna, like I say, do what I want, or be a little bit more experimental and maybe not quite as wrapped up in, I don't know, what I want to prove. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I think I just need to get on with it while I feel excited about it. Yeah, I think I might go like away for a bit. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll book a little Airbnb and just spend 3 days doing that. Turn my phone off. That'll be good. Better do that. Better actually hold myself to that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's next, and I'm full of creative energy at the moment, which is nice. Nice place to be.
That's great.
Yeah.
We are excited too. So, but we're enjoying Tent very much right now.
Yeah, that's it. I've got to not forget about it.
So you have a date coming up for the Clyde Chorus 2025, where you're supporting Lucia in the Best Boys at the end of May. Do you have any headline dates yourself coming up?
Yes. Well, yeah, so we're going to be announcing some headline shows, one in Glasgow and one in Edinburgh, which is nice. I've not played a headline show in Edinburgh for years and years. It'll be at the Leith Depot in Edinburgh on the 18th of September, which is a great venue, fantastic. One of my favourite venues in Edinburgh, I think. Quite a short, small stage, and I'm quite short myself, so maybe only the front row we'll see, but you should come along. And tickets are £10 from zoegrahammusic.com. And what else was the other one? Yeah, Glasgow at the Hug and Pint on the 19th, Friday the 19th of September. So not played there for a headline show in like nearly 10 years actually, so it's really looking forward to it. I'm going to hopefully have some new songs, I hope, by that point to maybe show as well. And
wow,
I hope, well, that's the plan, isn't it? Now I'm holding myself to that, so I've got to do it now. Yeah, and it's going to be good fun, good gaffes. Hopefully some really, really funny jokes that everyone's going to laugh at very loudly as well.
I'm sure they will. I'm
already thinking about what they're going to be. You better laugh.
Zoe, thank you so much.
No, thank
for
you.
Spending all this time with me. It's been wonderful.
Likewise.
And many more successes. I hope 10 goes from strength to strength, and you go from strength to strength. So thank you very much.
Thank you.